What is up, y'all? This is episode 32 of Two Jersey Kids. I am one of your hosts, Adam Buckingham, alongside the best stick handler in the video game business, Gary Seisel. What's up, Gary?
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Pumped to be here again.
If you didn't know, this is Two Jersey Kids. We are a video game podcast. We release every Tuesday. Tuesday, we tell you all the games coming out, and then we have a topic sometimes submitted by fans out there. You know who you are. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. We love you all. And then this Friday episode is where we go through all the news that's been breaking and coming out this whole past week since last Friday, or actually last Thursday, because secret, that's when we record, because you can't really record on Friday due to the schedules, and you know how things work. But, yeah. You can follow us on Twitter at Two Jersey Kids, and if you're a new listener, I hope you continue us throughout this whole, hopefully, hour-long episode, and you somehow stick with us. We love you so much, and yeah. So, Gary, now that I'm done with all of that, what have you been up to, my man?
Sadly, nothing that interesting, but I will say that this weekend, I actually plan on getting into the Vault of Glass raids in Destiny. Just something else to do. I need something to do with my friends again. We've been playing Battlefield and stuff like that, but it's going to be cool to revisit those old raids that we had a lot of fun in previously. So
I'm sure plenty of people have been listening to the podcast now, and they've been wondering. They're clamoring since everything they've heard about. You know, we've never played a video game in a while together. It's not never, but we haven't played a video game in a while together. And you know, there was so much hype about Drawn to Death coming out because it's on PS Plus, and Gary said he was going to download it and play it, and hopefully be on. You know what Adam did? He downloaded it. I downloaded it. Yeah, that's me, Adam. I'm talking to myself in third person. I downloaded it. Guess who wasn't fucking on it at all? Gary.
It was me, but I also did download it, so that's a step further than I usually take it. Usually I just don't download it.
Right fucking direction. Now, me personally, when it comes to Drawn to Death, I feel like that game is meant to play with multiple people because I was kind of a little, not bored, but playing it by myself didn't really suit me. I only got a death match with like 3 people. It's kind of annoying that I can't pick my own matches of what I want to play. I'd rather play team death because I want to see what that's like instead of, free for all basically. I do like the cast of characters that they have. It's like everybody has a different special, but they use the same weapons. But it does feel, which makes sense, it does feel like a free-to-play game that, they somehow shifted at the end. They wanted to make it like a legit retail game, but they didn't realize it until the end, which is what exactly happened. If you guys didn't know, I think David Jaffe listens to a podcast, I think PS I Love You, I think that's when they mentioned it, and they were talking about Drawn to Death, and I think Colin on the show was saying how he really wanted to, he felt like this game, he's tired of like all these free-to-play games, which I kind of concur with, how free-to-play games all the time, they release in early access, and then they release in beta, and then, or like alpha and then beta, and they never really know when they actually officially release, because when they say that it releases, you're like thinking, oh, it's already been released, so it never has a good, release, and doesn't really sell all too great at that time, because people already expected to be out already. I think like Loadout is like an example on the PS4, and something else, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But I feel like they came to this conclusion late in the game. That's why they shifted over to a retail game, and it came out for PS Plus for the PlayStation. But it still feels like a free-to-play game. They're like, those random box things that pop up. You can get different skins for your character. And it just feels like there's, for a multiplayer-specific game that's not free-to-play, it doesn't seem all too deep in depth with what you can do with your characters and what game modes you can play and all the variety that a multiplayer game should have, I think. In my personal opinion, I only play like an hour, maybe an hour and a half put into the game myself, So
does it kind of remind you of like a game, like a mobile game where you're kind of like, okay, so
it's better than a mobile game, that's for sure.
Well, no, I'm not saying. What I'm saying is like, oh, you have the game, but in order to get like the additional characters and all this, you need to pay $5.99. Like, is it kind of like one of those deals where it kind of just feels like a base game?
Nah, it doesn't feel like that. It feels more just. It kind of reminds me of Overwatch, but at least Overwatch, it felt more like there was more stuff in Overwatch to do, more things to collect, more easily to collect, and I don't know. It's just Overwatch. I felt like does it like that's a retail game like $60 worth, and it feels like it does it really well. Where this is kind of right now, me personally, I haven't put too much into it, so don't take me with a grain of salt here. So if I do want to get in with like a party, like maybe you and one of the friends out there who want to join us and play, and hopefully maybe that'll make things better. I hope if joining like a party puts us automatically into team deathmatch, because I've never been a fan of free for all type game modes. I never liked those.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I never like even like in Destiny and stuff like that. There was always like it's called Rumble in Destiny, but yeah, free for all like kind of I don't know. I can see the advantages to doing one-on-ones with people, but at the same time, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, and every character has like their special abilities. I just felt like sorry, I hit the mic. I felt for some reason it just felt off, like aiming wise. It didn't feel like my style game. Maybe it's because it's more arcadey right now, and I'm just not used to it, so I didn't get used to it while playing it. But like every character has different like small little special abilities and like special weapons, which I find cool. And each character has like a pro, so they can take less damage in a certain like area effect that another character does, like, or they heal from it. And another character can have a con that they take more damage when they're in that area effect. So it's kind of like an interesting cat and mouse type of game mode where you choose the character and you stick with them throughout the whole map. It has a great presentation, though. I do have to say, I love the art style. When you drop into the map, you're like kind of like free falling, like parachute style or paratrooper style, and you fall into it. So I just have to spend more time with it to get a full. That was my first impressions of the game. So I just have to put more time, and hopefully, maybe it'll finally grab me. But who knows right now? But Gary, what actually have you been up to?
Well, I was just saying. I mean, I haven't really been doing too much, but I'm looking forward to getting into the Destiny raids this week. Vault of Glass is the raid this week that they brought back, so that's something that I'll be getting back into and hopefully completing this time. Yeah, because last week it was Crota's End, which is a different raid. We made it all the way to the final stage, but by that point it was like 4:00 in the morning, and to be completely honest, I was pretty drunk at that point. So I was like, yeah, I think that's the end of this, because we tried it a few times. We tried the final stage a few times, failed, and so anyway, hopefully we can get it done this week. But that's it for me. What have you been?
This sounds like a bunch of gibberish. To me, honestly.
Well, okay. So long story short, I'm trying to complete a raid this weekend. Okay. Adam, what have you been up to here?
What have I been up to besides playing Drawn to Death that you haven't played yet, Gary? Get on it.
I'm not.
You motherfucker.
I'm not.
Play together sometime. Hopefully. Yay! I also played. I got back into Nioh finally because Horizon Zero Dawn was completed last week, so I finally hopped back into it. It was a fucking challenge, to be honest, getting controls back down and how difficult that game is. I finally got to my first boss since coming back, and I fought it 5 times, and 5 times I got my ass whooped. You want to know my best time? The closest I got to beating that boss? The first time. I've gotten farther away ever since. I don't know what happened. My skills must have regressed. But I mean, it's like a Souls game. I mean, I love Nioh going into it. When I had to leave, unfortunately, because of Horizon, I put more emphasis in Horizon, and that's the game I really wanted to play, and I'm thankful that I played it. But now I'm back into Nioh, and I just gotta get into the swing of things. I just have to, get into the same vibe or same groove that I was previously in that game, where it just felt like more natural fighting style, where bosses actually weren't. I mean, they were tough, but I felt more inclined and understood like how to defeat them. Now I'm still kind of, getting back into it. Hopefully I can, beat this fucking boss. She's a cold bitch. That's what she is. That's what she is. She literally is a cold person that throws fucking icicles. It's fucking annoying as hell. It's annoying as hell. She has an area effect, and I'm getting angry just thinking about it. And also, Hearthstone released their expansion today, so I was finally able to get into it. The Year of the Mammoth. It's a new year for Hearthstone with new cards and standards now rotating certain card packs out. So I started playing it today. I had an idea for a deck. I created it. It's been fun. Haven't got that far yet because everything with Hearthstone with new expansions, I've noticed all the really good players are starting off and they're already at low levels so they understand their decks, and they already have all the cards. So it's you're already playing like high level skilled players when you're at level 20. So it's kind of like a win lose, at least for me, because I'm not a legend player like some of these Hearthstone streamers. What's up, Gary?
Speaking of streamers, so I'm on Twitch today, and I was just looking through some of the games, and of course Hearthstone is at the very top of the directory, and of course, I remember you being a big fan of this game, so I looked at it. The first streamer in there had 74,000 viewers.
Who's the streamer? Do you know? Do you remember?
I can't remember the name, but I mean, coming from like someone that watches Destiny and like Battlefield occasionally, H1Z1. I mean, I watch streamers that have like maybe 2,000, 3,000 viewers at a time, but 74,000 people.
I think.
Oh my God.
I think like card games like that allow the streamer himself or herself to interact with the audience more, because you're not like in Destiny. You're not like just. You have to be focused, especially when you're playing a multiplayer match. It's kind of like a Twitch shooter, so you have to pay attention to everything. You can't really answer Twitch questions off just that are thrown out there. Same with, I feel like the same with Dota, even though Dota fucking probably kills, and same with League of Legends, but they're both like you have to pay attention, because if you don't, the fucking people that you play with will fucking murder you. They will murder you on screen, but not on screen. You know what I mean?
Indeed.
So, Gary, it's time for your segment, This Week in Gaming, brought to you by...
Yes, sir. I hate you so goddamn much.
Gatorade. Gary, what has been released this week in gaming history?
Well, that whole thing just gets worse and worse every week. But anyway... The first game that I found today, thanks to Moby Games, by the way, just sending a shout out their way, was ESPN Major League Baseball, was released on the Xbox back in 2004. Now, fun fact, Jason Giambi was on the cover, which I found slightly humorous. I mean, don't really hear a lot about that guy anymore, but I remember him being kind of famous.
Steroids, that guy. Fucking head was huge.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I remember him mostly for. But then I also found Doom 3 was released on the Xbox back in 2005. Now, I haven't really played any of the Doom games. I actually was considering buying the Doom, I guess like the new Doom game that came out for PS4, but I never got around to doing it. Adam, you said you played the originals?
I played the first one on 360 when it came out. It was like a classic that was released. I did enjoy it. I mean, it's a classic arcade game, so I don't know what else to say. People have played Doom before. I like the environments. I like the kind of the art style that they used back then to portray all the enemies and everything. I like the different guns that you could use. I mean, I think from what I'm hearing, they did a great job with the new one that was released this year by Bethesda. Or published by Bethesda, and I think they did a good job, apparently, from what I'm hearing. So, yeah, if that's a first-person shooter you're looking into, Gary, I think you should.
Yeah, I was going through a gaming drought at one point, and that's when I started to look around at games I've never played and had no experience with. So that was one of them. But lastly, I have NHL Blades of Steel 99 released on Nintendo 64 in, guess what, 1999.
No way.
Now, this game, okay, I rented this game from a local video game store. Actually, no, it wasn't Blockbuster. Remember Bravo Video near us, Adam? Remember that place? It was like the shittiest version of Blockbuster you could possibly...
Yep.
Well, anyway, I rented this game one time. Now, granted, it was for the PlayStation 1, not the Nintendo 64, but I remember having a lot of fun in this game. I remember you could play, like, I'm a Flyers fan, so I played the Devils, which were a huge rival back at that certain time. And I remember I played them, and it was like a rivalry game, so you had like fireworks going off, like the presentation was different. So I just feel like the presentation back in those games was ahead of its time, to say the least. So anyway, that is it for this week in gaming. Enjoy.
Yeah,
Adam, take the wheel.
I'm not going to do that. We're moving on into gaming news this week. Not too much has happened. I mean, there is a big thing that was, talking. I'm just going to get into it. Speaking of Nioh, which I mentioned that I was been playing over at Cog News, I don't think they ever mention who writes their stories, but Nioh game director talks possible sequel and DLC. Today we have information about Nioh thanks to an ever-engaging Famitsu magazine. Fucking A, Adam, what is this? In this weekly edition, we learned some interesting tidbits from game director Fumihiko Yasuda. Apparently, there have been fan requests for a female skin protagonist. Not really sure what that would look like, but a white-haired lass behind the sword would be interesting. Yasuda stated that it is a popular request, but doesn't know whether it is possible. At the very least, he's considering the idea with some positivity. Somewhere down the line, there were requests for playable dead or alive characters in Nioh, specifically Honoka and Aina. That's not going to happen. Yasuda was able to reveal some info about the impending DLC Dragon of the Tohoku. Aside from the likelihood of seeing a dragon, Yasuda confirmed that it's an endgame DLC taking character William to northern areas of Tokugawa Shogunate, where a mysterious evil lurks and plagues the air. Expect to meet historical figures including Date Masume, renowned samurai of feudal Japan. Expect another unique form of yokai as well. Since we are months into Nioh's post-launch, it made sense when Yasuda was asked about a possible sequel. Again, he made no definite statements, but expressed positive sentiment. This positivity stems from the game's success in Japan and overseas. Because of that result, both he and Koei Tecmo President Hashima Konuma are taking a sequel into consideration. Only time will tell. They better fucking make a sequel. I think that it sold pretty well in the States. Gary, look up how many copies it sold. I'm going to talk now.
Okay. Okay.
So, I am excited to beat Nioh. Hopefully, I feel like it's going to take another fucking day's worth of hours to finally beat Nioh. What do you got, Gary?
You said in the United States?
Sure.
All right. Well, apparently... Okay, well, oh, damn it. Well, all right, it topped 1 million worldwide.
That's good.
But I'll look further into the U.S. sales.
It's already pretty positive for a game that's been in development for so long, and I don't know if people really expected too much from Team Ninja's game. It was a PS4 exclusive, which, yeah, fucking PS4 rules. Just kidding. I'm not a fanboy at all, because I think that's fucking stupid. But what I was saying is I look forward to finally beating the game and maybe adding a more endgame DLC, depending on how much it costs, because, I'm a normal person and I have a job, but I don't have too much money to spend on video games, which I wish I could just spend it all. But, unfortunately, that's not how things work. But, yeah, I'm interested. Hopefully I get to fight a dragon in the upcoming DLC. And I've been enjoying Nioh. So if you are a Dark Souls fan out there, I highly suggest checking out this Japanese-based... You all right over there, Gary? You look like you're in some sort of pain with rubbing your eyes.
No, I'm good.
Okay. You're getting bored by my Nioh talk? You getting bored?
No.
Okay, no, I tried to include
I'm hanging on every single word.
All right, what did I say?
I'm not even going to bite on this one. Just keep going.
All right, we're going to move on. Scorpio made simple. The next Xbox tech explained. Oli Welsh over at Eurogamer writes, last week, Digital Foundry's Rich Ledberg traveled to Microsoft campus in Redmond for an exclusive deep dive on the tech powering the next Xbox console, codename Project Scorpio. There's a detailed report, but since we're not tech literate, this article was for us. So they, bullet points like wondering what's it called, when's it out, what does it look like. We weren't told or can't tell you. Sorry, this was a tech reveal. We assume those details are being saved for E3. There's some good stuff in here though. So the form factor of the console will pleasantly surprise you. As for cost, Microsoft told us absolutely nothing. But looking at what's in it, it ain't gonna be cheap. Our guess, and it is just a guess, is $499, the same launch price as the original Xbox One. Microsoft gave us the full tech specs of the machine. The central processor, or CPU, has some custom x86 cores clocked at 2.3 gigahertz. The graphic processor has 40 customized compute units clocked at 1172 megahertz, a very high clock speed for a console, and it does achieve Microsoft's stated 6 teraflop performance figure. Your favorite, Gary, teraflops. There's 12 gigabytes of GDDR5 RAM with a memory bandwidth of 326 gigabytes per second. Sorry. There's a faster 1 terabyte 2.5 inch hardware drive. I choked on my own spit. And a UHD Blu-ray drive. Like Xbox One S, it has an integrated power supply, so no external power brick. In terms of input/output ports, it is identical to the Xbox One S, so no Connect port, but HDMI is retained. Whew. So if you didn't understand that, they break it down more, like I did, not understand completely. So I just wanted to break down in, more basic points, like what that means. I was reading the actual digital report, Gary, and I was like, I have no fucking idea. I don't know how I plan on putting this into the podcast. I don't know how to explain it because I'm not like the software, or the hardware type guy, which understands everything that's intricated in. So I'm happy Eurogamer actually did this for us. Well, not us specifically, but for people like us who don't understand. So I'm just going to keep moving instead of rambling some more. Okay, so the CPU is about 30% faster than the Xbox One's. The GPU is 4.6 times more powerful than Xbox One. What matters just as much, though, is the huge amount of very fast memory available. Even with 4 gigabytes reserved for the system, games with a whole 8 gigabyte to play with, up from 5 gigabytes of much slower memory on Xbox One. That means fast streaming of very high quality art assets, which will really help at the 4K Ultra HD resolutions that Microsoft is gunning for. So it's powerful, as they said it would be. As powerful as everyone hoped? Pretty much, yeah. Some were hoping to see the next-gen CPU technology in here, but that was never likely, given Microsoft's mandated compatibility with all existing Xbox One software. On the CPU side, what we have is a more modest evolution of Xbox One unit, but the GPU is a beast. It's very, very fast. More powerful than the PS4 Pro, you ask, Gary? Because I know that's what you're curious about. Yes, Sony's machine is very clever and produces great results in the right hands. And as ever, the quality of the end results depends on how well the software runs, not on the waving number around it. But as far as those numbers go, Scorpio has PS4 Pro licked. It surely will be more expensive too. It's a higher spec machine in every sense, down to the optical drive that plays the new UHD Blu-ray format. Microsoft uses the word premium, and you know what that means? $. They asked if did they see a game running. Yes, they saw a Forza Tech demo, which is a stress test based on the Forza Motorsport 6 engine, running the maximum number of cars around a track with a dynamic weather and all the bells and whistles turned on it. So how did it do? It smashed it. At the same graphics quality as the Xbox One, the demo ran at a 4K resolution at a perfect 60 frames per second. For Xbox One to do this at a standard HD resolution of 1080p uses about 90% of that console's power. Scorpio was only using 60 to 70% of its resources to run this demo. The graphics settings were then ramped up to the equivalent of the Ultra setting on the PC game Forza Motorsports Apex, and Scorpio still didn't break a sweat. So that basically means Scorpio potentially has enough power not just to run Xbox One games at 4K resolution at the same frame rate. It's got power to spare on improving their looks further with higher quality graphic settings, smoother frame rates, and more. So what's the catch? Microsoft didn't choose the Forza engine to demo to us by accident. It's one of the best optimized, best performing game engines out there. Results on other game engines can and will vary. So if you don't have a 4K, and I'm doubting I'm going to get one anytime soon, why should you care about Scorpio, they write. Microsoft has made a commitment that, unlike the PS4 Pro, all improved Scorpio mods for games must be available regardless of the display that's connected. So even with a regular 1080p TV, you'll be able to choose between performance modes that will make the game run or resolution modes that will then super sample the 4K image down to your 1080p display, which should give you superb image quality. Basically, a fantastically smooth and pretty picture. It's like having the ultimate anti-aliasing solution. So they explain it more less, fucking what just happened. I don't understand what was just said. Scorpio will run absolutely all the Xbox One games better, whether they get patched with the 4K Scorpio enhanced mods or not. Rather than running on emulated Xbox One, they'll run with the full power of Scorpio unlocked, which in most cases should mean more stable frame rates that hit their target more often, no screen tearing, maximum possible resolution at all times, nicer looking textures, and faster loading times thanks to the improved hard drive and the spare 3 gigabytes of fast RAM. So what about compatible Xbox 360 games, and are there any advantages there? Yep, all the above. And it's worth pointing out that none of this has been easy for Microsoft to engineer. There's an impressive commitment to making as many Xbox games as possible run better than you've ever seen them before on Scorpio. So they go into more of their thoughts. Gary, after that long article about dumbing it down for all of us people that don't understand tech, that's me and you, what did you think about that?
Oh, I'll simplify it even further, and by saying that, I think that I still think that it's all a bunch of tech bullshit. Despite the fact that, yes, okay, the Scorpio is going to be a very well-made machine. It's going to perform better than the Xbox One, perform better than the PS4 Pro. Despite all of that, why? Why do I need to buy this console? Why should anybody buy this console? I mean, it's one thing if you're just getting into an Xbox, so you're like, all right, well, I could buy the Xbox One, but you know what? The Scorpio's out. It's maybe $100 more than the Xbox One. I'll buy it. It's, whatever. But if I have like a PS4, for example, okay, and PS4 Pro's out, why do I need to buy it? What is the purpose? Like, if I have extra money laying around to just throw away, maybe I'll do it. But other than that, I just don't understand why they need to release these consoles. I don't understand why it's necessary.
I understand, Gary, why you don't want to buy it. It's because you're a fucking Sony fanboy. That's what everyone out there will say.
No.
I do get what you're saying.
It's the same thing with the PS4 Pro. I have no idea why it's necessary for this console to be released. It's just these in-between consoles don't make sense to me,
Gotcha. So you feel like it's more of an in-between set of consoles where it's not like a definitive, this is the definitive next console that we're doing. It's more of saying it's like a half measure, not going completely out on a limb, stating that it was a new console itself and it's separating itself from the Xbox One. Even though I feel like I'm getting that feeling that it is a new console in itself, even though it sounds like it's going to be looking kind of like the Xbox One S, so I don't understand the difference.
I just don't understand who they're selling this product to.
So you're saying you're basically saying that the mindset that they're pushing with this console is not showing that this is like a necessary console that people have to have, because people, if they have a Xbox One S or a PS4, there's no necessary reason to upgrade when you can just have the same experience, just at lower quality on these lower consoles, basically. Cheaper consoles.
Yeah, well, not only that, but how much lower quality? I haven't had. It's not like I sit here every day and I'm playing games and I'm just like, man, if only I had a PS4 Pro, my life would be so much better. No, I don't see the actual reason for this. It's just.
I feel like
it just doesn't make sense.
We are in the space of console. We've always been console gamers, so we don't understand the importance of. Well, it's not we don't understand. We don't recognize. I guess if you're in like the PC community, the PC master race or whatever, how they understand all the benefits of a new graphics card or GPU. They understand. They can not understand, but they can tell when they look at a game. It bugs them when it's not 30 frames per second, but instead it's 60 frames per second. I remember I played The Last of Us Remastered, and it was on at 60 frames per second for the PS4. It definitely felt better, but I don't think it added to the experience in itself, because the game itself is a great story that was told, and the 60 frames per 50 frames per or 60 frames per second did not add or subtract from it. I just feel like sometimes people put too much into the tech. I know I've said this plenty of times before. I feel like people put too much in the tech and not enough emphasis onto the gameplay itself, figuring out how to innovate the game and what to do with the game, and not just saying, let's beef the power more. Because, I feel like the best innovations that are created from games are when they had to struggle with the power, when they had to struggle to find the little itty bits left of that console, like on the NES. They figured out a way to create like the music for that console and all the levels that could be incorporated into it. They had to use creativity, but now you're giving all these developers more power. A lot of the creativity, I feel like, is you're not trying to squeeze out the creativity, which in difficult conditions, I feel like you can get more out of a game or a developer, because they're not idiots. They know what they're doing. You just have to. They know a way to work around, and I feel like that's the best creations that are come out of difficult situations. I feel. Yeah,
I mean, I was just going to say that with you were talking about the PC gamers and how they're more used to the hardware upgrades and knowing the specifications of their like the tech they're using, but I feel like in their situation with computers, like, computer games are constantly pushing the requirements forward. Like with every new game that comes out on a computer, I feel like the requirements are pushed ahead further with regards to graphics and like visuals and stuff like that, where with consoles, it's not as you don't really think about it because you have your console, and whatever game they release, it's going to run on your console. So there's no reason to go out and upgrade. That's why it doesn't make sense to me. It's like why do I need a PS4 Pro if I can just still run my same whatever game comes out? I'm gonna be able to run on my regular PlayStation. So it's not like that's what I'm saying. I would like to know what their goal is here and what their sales goals are. What do they expect from the Scorpio? What do they expect from the PS4 Pro? Like, do they expect that to? I want to know what their actual end game is.
Do they expect it as like a new console sales wise?
Yeah.
Or do they expect it as like a upgrade or a like a PlayStation Slim version sales upgrade, or what do they expect? Do they expect it as a new console? Like, are they going to start from 0 with the amount of sales that are created, and just ignore Xbox One sales completely, or are they going to just say that it adds on to that?
Yeah, like I don't think they expect it to be a new console at all, but I just don't know. Do they expect it to really take off and do well on its own, or is it kind of just supposed to add on to the numbers they currently have? I'm not obviously a member of Microsoft or Sony, so
I got it. There was all speculations about the name and everything. Here's my conspiracy theory. Here's what I'm expecting: a fucking bombshell to be dropped. Fucking Microsoft has been shifting more and more into the PC space with the Windows 10 and everything. It's called Project Scorpio. Notice the S? I'm gonna fucking say, how Steam have their Steam boxes? Fucking, it's a Steam Xbox. Combine them, bang! Combining universes. It's Xbox's jump into the Steam box creation. So now it's gonna be a platform with Steam and Microsoft, a fucking powerhouse.
That would be sick. That would be a sick idea.
Fucking Sony would be destroyed. They would have to partner with Nintendo to have a chance.
Oh god. Yeah, and then Nintendo can bring over that vast library of games they have, that 7 games. Yeah,
damn. Oh shit! I'm sure people listening right now don't like that tone you just took with Nintendo. You Nintendo hater. You just hate them. All right. On that note, we're gonna move on. Scuf unveils 2 new PS4 controllers. Brian Crescente over at Polygon writes, Scuf today unveiled 2 new controllers, one built on the company's popular Infinity line and another redesigned from the ground up specifically for the PlayStation 4. The Scuf Infinity Pro starts at $129.95, and the Scuf Impact starts at $139.95. Both models are compatible with the PS4 and the PC. The Impact includes 4 removable paddles recessed into the back of the controller body, an improved cable retention system. It is 6mm wider than Infinity to make room for 2 additional paddles. The Infinity Pro includes a slew of features that have been updated from the Infinity line of controllers, including a new recessed paddle design and improved switch technology and circuit boards. Here's a rundown of the features both controllers include: the wireless play with Bluetooth or wired through a micro USB cable, the Scuf paddle control system, which now comes with a 12-month paddle replacement policy and more durable paddles. The interchangeable thumbstick. Players can choose from 4 short domed, short concave, long domed, long concave with the Pro, or 5 with the Impact. Gary, all those thumbsticks are for you. Military-grade texture grips, electronic magnetic remapping, which allows on-the-fly remapping of the back paddles to any face button. The controller also features Scuf's new trigger system that includes quick shift trigger stops, which shorten the travel distance on a trigger pull. Mechanical tuning of the trigger latency and trigger covers and extenders that can be clipped onto the controller. And for those of you who worry over the size of controllers, they give the specs and the size of it. It looks very cool. Not gonna lie, and I know you mentioned in the previous podcast you wanted to have finally a PS4 Elite controller, and now there is one, but it's weird that it's third party is going out of its way to do it, and not Sony itself. I
mean, Scuf's been around for a while, and I've been looking at buying one of their controllers recently because I was getting my tax returns back, so I had extra money to play with.
Fuck
but,
you. There's a story outside of the podcast that I don't want to tell. But it's fucking you. Gary understands why I just said "fuck you."
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. But anyway, with the Scuf controllers, like I've been going through so many controllers over the past few years. I've honestly been through like 6 controllers. Just the left thumbstick always breaks, always just completely dies on me.
You just have strong fingers. You know how to work your fingers so well. You just wear it out, ladies, or men.
Or
Gary swings that way.
Okay, or it could have been.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Or, crazy enough, it could have been that I play a lot of first-person shooters, and there's always that sprint that has to be done. You know, pressing down that thumbstick. I know it's crazy to think like that, but it could have been that. So anyway, I've been thinking about buying a Scuf controller. They're really cool. They're great controllers.
You just fucking rip this thing like it's like you're gonna fall off a cliff if you let this go. Like, how do you destroy controllers? I guess you do play Destiny like a shit ton, so I shouldn't put it past you.
Destiny and Battlefield, but yeah, and NHL for that matter, and they all use that same stick.
True.
So yeah, but yeah, so I was thinking about buying this controller. I like the idea of being able to customize my own controller, and also the paddles in the back. They can help you play certain games, such as Destiny for that matter, where if you're trying to, for example, you can revive it. You can revive a teammate. Hold down a paddle on the back that is actually like the square button is connected to the square button. But you can also keep both your fingers on the triggers, so it's kind of like an advantage you have over people. Just an idea, but that's not really the reason. I just wanted the durability, and like I said, the customization. So I was thinking about it. I don't know if I'm going to do it just yet. It's kind of expensive, and we'll see.
I had a random off-topic question that just popped in my head for you. Do you always stick with the generic control scheme for first-person shooters, or do you go to the? I know a lot of like pro Destiny players or pro like Halo players do the bumper jumpers.
Oh, fuck that! No, yeah, I stick to generic, dude. I mean,
because those little seconds of jumping and aiming is crucial in, I guess, those like competitive games, but I was just curious if you try to go that. Do you go that route, that crazy?
No, I'm not that nuts. I mean, I know, like, I don't do that control scheme, and I also know, like, some people do sensitivity, like max sensitivity, where like you move the thumbstick like maybe a centimeter over, and like you're whipping across the screen.
That's insane.
I know people that do that. Yeah, I don't personally do that either. I don't do cocaine, so I really couldn't like. I'm like jittering all over the damn screen. No, I don't do that. So
I feel like I'm more of a. I feel like your sensitivity should be at like the lowest if you're doing cocaine, aren't you? Like you're like speeding up.
I'm saying that the sensitivity in Destiny, if you just ramp up the sensitivity and you're whipping all over the place, it's like similar to being on cocaine. Not that I've done that, so I'm not.
What? You're just,
I don't know.
Okay, so you're saying that putting your sensitivity up to the max is like being on cocaine. I feel like that's bullshit, Gary. I feel like that's completely 100% false.
What, have you seen people that use 10 sensitivity? You're whipping all over the goddamn place.
What?
Going crazy.
So like on the street, if there's a cocaine user out there, do you think they're just whipping all over the place, just fucking looking left and right, just like fucking?
I wouldn't put it
my
past
god!
I wouldn't put it past them, honestly.
Jesus,
you never know with those people. Those people.
Oh my god! I'm just gonna move on from there. Whew. Microsoft purges game emulators from Windows and Xbox stores. Game emulators are now this is from the Next Web. Rachel Kasser over there. Game emulators are now banned from Windows stores following a change to the rules, and Microsoft has wasted no time getting rid of the ones already there. According to new rules put into place on March 29th, quote, apps that emulate a game system are not allowed on any device, end quote. While it's more than a little annoying that Windows is closing its doors officially to such innocuous software, it's understandable why It's understandable why it would from a business standpoint. After all, if you're emulating a console Microsoft doesn't own, it might be legally thorny to allow you to sell said emulator on its store. Notably, the DOSBox emulator app for Windows phones is still available on the store at the time of writing this. There might be some wiggle room for apps that don't specifically emulate a game system. Also, anyone who downloads their emulators from elsewhere on the internet won't notice much of a difference. The most noticeable absence following this rule change is the Universal Emulator app, which let you play Nintendo and Sega classics on the Windows 10 computers and tablets, as well as Xbox One. Developer NES Box lamented the setback, though it still has a browser-based version available. Obviously, anyone can still download emulators from elsewhere on the internet, as well as the Google Play Store. This new ban does mean, however, that using game-based emulators is even more clandestine than before. I kind of wanted to do this article because I thought it was fascinating before how there were actual emulators on the Xbox One itself, and I thought that was kind of cool. Now they're going against it, which makes sense, so I don't know why people are complaining, because it just puts Microsoft in a weird place if there's emulators running on their system and their devices.
For someone that I've never used an Xbox One, so for someone that isn't really familiar with it, I mean, have you used emulators on your Xbox One?
Nope.
You never did?
Never. I completely forgot about to check it out, but I've never used it. So I never felt the need, because if you need an emulator, there's plenty for your PC or Mac or whatever you use. You can find them anywhere to download. So I don't understand the point of doing it on your Xbox. Maybe using your controller to, I guess, help with the emulator, even though on any PC or Mac you can adjust it so you can use your controller. So I don't know the whole purpose. It just makes
Maybe
sense. And I want to get. Have you ever used an emulator before for these old systems?
Man, I mean, I think I used one on my PC to run some DOS games. I had games back in the day when I was like little, and I was like probably like 6, that you couldn't even run on like any of today's Windows software, like Windows 10. So I would play like old games that were like on Windows 3.1 and DOS through an emulator, and that was pretty kick-ass. That was a lot of fun. I think I used an emulator for that. I mean, it's been a while since I played, but I played like games like you ever play the game Jill of the Jungle by any chance?
No.
That was legit back in the day. I also played a game called Word Search, which was like, it was like kind of like I can't remember exactly what you did. It's been so long, but you know, it was like a platformer type game. But that was a lot of fun too.
Never played it. I thought Jill of the Jungle was gonna be some. You remember? I don't know. Did they have it in our elementary school? Is like every summer they would give you discs, like computer games to play, but they were like educational. I forget what it was called, but it wasn't Putt-Butt, which I mentioned last episode. It was, I forget, it was like it's like a guy and a girl tandem, and they're going through like jungle trying to solve puzzles. I don't remember. That just like etched into my brain when you said that for some reason. Emulator wise, I played A Link to a Past with it in college. Unfortunately, I didn't get around to beating it, which is still fucking plenty of the games that I still want to go back and try to beat. It's like like the Hall of Shame of games. We should do a half episode on that, like all the Hall of Shame games that we've never played yet, or haven't played yet, or we just feel embarrassed that we haven't. I also randomly, I just had a feeling to play Pokemon, so I decided to play Pokemon on there. And the great thing about that is that you can jack up the emulator speed, so you don't walk around at such a slow fucking pace that you do for portions of Pokemon in general. So you can jack it up, so you can just run really fast.
Wait, you turn off the sensitivity, is what you're saying?
Yes. It's fucking like Ash Ketchum is on cocaine. That's what happens.
Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right back. Makes sense now. More sense. Actually, by the way, fun fact, Jill of the Jungle was a game that came out in 1992.
I'm on cocaine right now!
Crazy. No, but Jill of the Jungle, it came out on MS-DOS in 92. So if you're not familiar with it, that's why. But yeah, that game, awesome. Awesome game.
It's older than us, Gary. That's fucking sad. We're fucking young pieces of shit that for some reason people listen to us because they love us and we love you. Remember, follow us on Twitter at 2JerseyKids. Moving on. Teardown reveals Nintendo Switch costs around $257 to build. Who wrote this over at VentureBeat? Dean Takahashi over at VentureBeat writes, oh, fucking ads. I'm slowing down my damn computer. The Nintendo Switch game console costs about $257 for Nintendo to build, according to a report by Japanese teardown firm Fumalhaut Techno Solutions. That's pretty close to the console's retail price of $300, and it leaves very little margin for Nintendo, considering that the retailers also get a profit margin. While Nintendo may still make money, it is moving closer to the Razer and Razer Blade model, where it makes money on the software. Fumalhaut took the console apart and analyzed the Joy-Con controllers and the charging dock. The touchscreen processor and the dock run about $167. The Joy-Con controllers cost about $45. The Switch has a bunch of custom silicon boards that are layered one on top of the other. The main chip is custom NVIDIA Tegra processor, which combines a central processing unit and graphics on the same chip. The HD Rumble controllers have immersion technology. By contrast, the Xbox One cost Microsoft about $347 to build, while the PS4 cost about $381 to build at launch in 2013, which is kind of fascinating because it kind of shows that PS4 was, I feel like it was cutting it even closer, because didn't the PS4 launch at $399? If this is correct.
It wasn't really that expensive compared to a lot of the other launches before.
And did the Xbox One launch at the same price, or was it more expensive?
I think it was actually $100 more, which is the reason why Xbox got off to a slow start, I think.
And it was worth less.
Yeah, essentially. But I think with Nintendo here, it's interesting. I mean, they're putting a ton of faith in their software. It's ballsy. Honestly,
it was $499 for the Xbox One, and let me look for the PS4, which I think it was $399, but just to be sure. But continue.
But don't you think? But don't you think it's ballsy though for them to put all this faith in their software, and they have
for sure.
as of right now? I mean, they have so few games out there, and really only one that is like a must-have, I guess, if you're a Nintendo Switch owner. So they better. I mean, they must be really expecting a lot of great games to come out on this console, and maybe a lot of good ports as well. So, I don't know. And I'm not sure how much I also agree with this tactic either. So.
I mean, it worked out in Sony's favor. They put their emphasis on games, and they somewhat delivered. They kept pushing back with games in itself, so I'm not sure. I feel like it was the marketing behind Sony and what they did prior to the PS4 release that allowed them to sell more consoles and then sell the third-party developed games on their consoles, because that's what people associated it with, like Destiny and the Battlefield games and Battlefront. So I feel like Nintendo did a better job this turn around with their marketing, saying that this is what they wanted gamers. They wanted us, people of our age. They don't want to make a Fisher-Price toy like they did with the Wii and the Wii U.
But time
will tell to see if they can just go by if they just have their own software released for the games, released for the console, which didn't work for the Wii U. But it'll be fascinating to see if they finally build those relationships with the indie devs and other third parties, hopefully, to bring it over to the Switch. And not do like what they did with the Wii U, where they brought over the AAA games 2 years or 3 years after it was finally released, like Batman Arkham.
And that's exactly it. It's the reason why PS4 sold well is because they're Sony and they're PlayStation. People know what they're getting with PlayStation, as opposed to Nintendo, where it's you just never really know what route they're going to take. Are they actually going to bring worthwhile games to the console? Apparently they think they are, because with how little they're selling their console for, and I say little,
it's been doing pretty
jokey.
Decently so far. I forget the actual amount. Gary, look that up.
All right.
While I read the next article, because it flows into the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch owners report yet another issue: warping. According to Derek Rosenthal over at Engadget.com. The Nintendo Switch is the fastest-selling console in the company's history, sure, but it hasn't been all roses. For example, gamers have encountered significant problems with the dock and the Joy-Con controllers. But wait, there's more. Remember when the iPhone 6 famously experienced bending issues in 2014? Now it's the Switch that has warping troubles. As Techno Buffalo notes, console owners like Reddit users _NSR and others commenting on the thread are reporting that their machines are noticeably bowing, particularly after being used in dock mode. NSR speculates that this could be because the console works harder while outputting video, so it gets hot enough that the internal components become more likely to expand on the plus side. The bending doesn't seem to affect the Switch's functionality, though. Nintendo has yet to comment on the issue, but the company is repairing affected consoles, according to a Reddit commenter. That's nice, but this seemingly constant stream of Switch problems is still a bummer. We're enjoying our consoles, they said, very much, but it looks like questionable quality control means that some people aren't getting as positive an experience as others. Gary, did you find out for me?
I mean, I've seen a lot of things about like Japan and stuff like that, like sales doubling. I think we covered before actually in this podcast.
Yeah,
so,
I don't know.
A lot of similar stuff.
I don't know if they gave like specific in Japan of how much we're selling, but they never said just overall. Yeah. I think Reggie said that it was doubling what they expected, or something along those lines, double the Wii U, or something along those lines. But again, you have to deliver on your promises of bringing games or bringing stuff to the console itself. I know I mentioned before the console did come out, since it is a hybrid, they can now have their studios who focused on 3DS games, or the studios that were focusing on Wii U specific games. Now they can, since it's a hybrid, hopefully they can focus on, they're both focused on, the Switch itself, and hopefully they can bring different experiences to the Nintendo console, maybe differing, more mature experiences to the console, not just, Nintendo or Mario, Zelda, even though people have been really fucking loving Breath of the Wild, because it's finally Nintendo's hopping into the Western RPG, which took them so long to finally, try to go that route and see what happened. It's doing really well.
To get into that whole issue with the whole warping thing, it's like this goes the same for Apple. I guess with Apple it's a little bit harder to test, but I mean with Nintendo, didn't they test this and maybe see the whole warping issue coming? I mean, if you dock your Nintendo Switch and it heats up over certain hours. Didn't they test this? I mean, obviously you can't find every issue.
That's the whole point of quality control, is you test it in every extreme condition that you expect it. So I would expect them to have it hooked up to a dock and running constantly for hours upon hours at high performance, or what they expect it to be outputting. So I don't know if they saw it, or I don't know if they just missed it, which can happen in quality control. I mean,
it could be a select few consoles too.
Yeah, it could just be a random, only a few, which is kind of strange that it happens to a few and not others. If they're built from the same material, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's I don't know exactly, because I'm not a hardware guy. I don't know if placing certain internal hardware can affect the heating in certain areas, which makes the plastic or whatever they're using on the outside more malleable, allowing it to bend more. I don't know. It's an engineering question, and I'm not the right engineer to ask. Moving on, because I'm fucking excited to talk about this, Gary. This fucking next article, because if you are a continued Two Jersey Kids fan, you know that me and Gary love these fucking stories, because they're absolutely bonkers. I'm gonna go into it. How EVE players, this is over Kotaku, how EVE players trashed $17,000 worth of ships in just 3 easy steps. Lee Yancey over at Kotaku. And it's not the number of dollars. I mean, that's also insane that was lost in this. It's the fucking strategy that goes behind it. It's fucking, I'm going to get into it. One of EVE Online's most powerful alliances dealt a heavy blow to an opposing group yesterday, luring their opponents into a very costly trap that destroyed nearly $17,000 worth of virtual ships. 5 Titan-class ships, the largest and most expensive ships in the game, were destroyed in just a few minutes, with the attacking crew taking minimal losses. Over 700 individual players ended up participating. Here's how they pulled it off. This is fun. I love this. I'm already giddy about to read this because I read it earlier. Step 1. Spot the sucker. The leader of the strike was Pandemic Legion Fleet Commander Killa B, who has been playing EVE since 2008. Ever since a rival alliance called the Circle of Two had settled into their new home region in EVE's universe, Pandemic had been watching them closely. Quote, they seemed to feel very safe, end quote. Killa B says, quote, they would drop their expensive ships on anything that moved through their region, any roaming gang at all. They were asking to get baited into something like this, end quote. Knowing that Circle of Two was not as experienced as their group at dealing with massive capital engagements, Pandemic Legion slowly moved a force of Dreadnought-class ships and others into nearby systems, ready to pounce at the right fucking moment. I added the fucking because I'm excited. Step 2, set the bait. While one of Circle 2's massive capital industrial vessels was inside an asteroid belt mining ore, a sparse fleet of smaller vessels to attack it. Okay, these vessels actually belong to the Goon Swarm Federation, an alliance which is often at odds with Pandemic. But this time they saw an opportunity to team up. Quote, whoever I can get kills with, I work with, end quote, says Killer B. The Goon Swarm ships tackled, in Eve parlance, the bigger ships, stopping it from being able to warp out of the battle. Then the small ships ignited a beacon that allowed friendly ships to warp into the battle. Quickly, a Dreadnought-class siege vessels appeared, firing at the industrial ship, which immediately called for assistance. Circle of Two's relief fleet arrived quickly, but that was all part of the plan. Step 3, spring the trap. Killer's B prediction was right. Circle of Two set its best, most expensive ships into the asteroid belt to deal with this skirmish. Capital and super capital forces began to engage the enemy dreadnoughts, coming in at a trickle while Pandemic Legion bided their time. Once several Titans and a handful of super carriers had teleported in, parentheses, unable to leave because smaller ships had been spreading warp disruption fields around the asteroid, end parentheses, Pandemic dropped the hammer. 80 more capital vessels teleported in, quickly overwhelming Circle of Two's fleet with sheer numbers. In just a few minutes' time, Circle of Two had lost 5 vessels, each worth over 100 billion ISK, in-game currency worth about $1,600, and 6 more worth about 25 billion ISK, $400 each. They end off the article. So what happens now? Both sides will have to rebuild their fleets since the ships involved take anywhere between a few days to a month of real time to rebuild. For all the enormity of this battle, one of the most costly Eve skirmishes in years, it was an isolated incident and not the beginning of a war, Killaby says. Quote, we had a chance to kill ships, and we did, end quote. I fucking love this game. I don't play it, but I fucking love hearing the stories about epic battles and wars that are going on in this universe, because people still fucking play the shit out of this game, and it's amazing. It is amazing that they set up traps and everything.
I have to say, the sheer amount of time you have to put in this game blows me away. But not only that, it's the personalities that are apparently in this game, like this Killer B guy, you know, like at the end, we had a chance to kill ships and we did. Like, I mean, the politics and the war that happens in this game. I mean, it's insane. The enemy
of my enemy is my friend. They just got, what was it called? Goon Swarm to join in to bait the attack and then they pounce. Fucking insane. It's fucking insane. That I remember telling you the story about the person trying to get revenge on that one alliance that kicked him out or something. He fucking finally built up his force, and then somebody learned of his story and just like committed basically like it was a spy, I guess, or committed a coup and gave him like a little tidbit, like saying that they're weak now, and they just fucking steamrolled him all because of this one, like it was like a revenge story. I'm like, oh my god, this is like fucking amazing. That's why I love listening to these stories, because I think it kind of, it's like, what's that game called? Democracy? You know how you play like in just like a classroom setting, but people and out there's like certain like competitions like older people play and they get really intense. Kind of reminds me of just like a more expanded version of that, where you can actually fight with ships and there's differing alliances in different areas and they try to coordinate. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah,
Blow my mind.
Like a world. It's honestly like just a world of its own, a separate world away from this world. Like it blows my mind. I was reading this today, and I was like, "Oh, look!" And the funny thing is about reading this story is that it didn't necessarily surprise me, because I've also read other Eve stories like we've done in the past on this podcast. You know, I was just like, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised at how insane some of these people actually are. And it's no different in other games. You know, a lot of other games out there also had this type of competition, but I just think the enormity of these battles and also the money and time lost are what makes Eve like just so crazy.
They say it takes like 1 month of real time to repair a ship. That's insane.
Yeah. And you think like that in a battle, you can seemingly lose all that time just in like a few hours.
And I'm sure people were pissed that they lost. I am sure they're pissed, and I'm sure they're plotting their revenge, and I can't wait for that to come out. So if you are a Two Jersey Kids fan and you're hearing this right now and you ever see an Eve article about, like, I don't know, fucking crazy espionage or battles or a gigantic war happening, send it our way, and I 100% guarantee you we will read it on the podcast because we fucking love this shit. Moving on! I'm excited about this. Jak and Daxter games are coming to PS4. Jeffrey Matlouf over at Eurogamer writes, 4 of Naughty Dog's Jak and Daxter games are coming to PS4 later this year as PS2 Classic. These include Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy, Jak 2, Jak 3, and Jak X Combat Racing. Each title will receive an HD upgrade consisting of 1080p uprendering and trophy support. Other nifty bonuses on Sony's contemporary hardware include share play, remote play, and activity feeds. It's worth noting that these HD upgrades aren't the same as the spruced up Jak and Daxter trilogy that came to the PS3 in 2012, as the PS4 hardware isn't compatible with PS3 software. According to Digital Foundry's John Lineman, this PS2 version on PS4 will likely look better than the previous PS3 remaster. Quote, the PS3 HD versions was missing visual effects. The shiny metallic surfaces, for instance, were all missing. If you emulate the PS2 originally and bump the resolution up to 1080p or more, it should wind up looking better than if you just ported the HD versions. End quote. I'm excited for this. I remember playing the original Jak games before Naughty Dog was ever huge. Jak and Daxter was their kind of entry point into kind of like the mascot 3D platforming style with kind of a collectathon, basically, it seemed like, collecting these rare eggs to move throughout the world. But then Jak 2 and Jak 3 took a drastic change in like tone and setting, where Jak 2 all of a sudden they introduced the like guns and like I think there was free roaming in it, from what I can remember, or like free roaming in like a city. Same with Jak 3, and Jak became like there was dark energy that he could use. It was like a drastic change, and I loved it because it was kind of like a GTA at the time that I couldn't play GTA when I was younger. What, Gary? What do you want to say?
I was gonna ask you, what was your favorite Jak game? Because I never played personally.
Jak 2. Because I feel like it still captured what the original Jak game had, I believe, with like kind of collecting somewhat of things, going into different areas, different worlds, and jumping around, and then also add the additional gun combat, where it was kind of interesting going from. Because I don't know exactly why, because I at the time, I remember in my brain, it felt like Jak and Daxter were competing with Ratchet and Clank, even though I don't think they're actually. I mean, maybe they were because they were kind of in the same space. So Ratchet and Clank came out, I think, after Jak and Daxter. I don't remember exactly, but they had their own like guns and like different variety. Jak and Daxter sort of, I don't want to say copied it, Jak 2 anyway, but it only had like maybe 4 variety of weapon arsenal that you could use, so it wasn't like completely rip off with different type of guns. It was kind of toned down, I guess you could say, with the gun use that was used in those games. But I love those games. I love it. If now that they add trophies, I may have to go back and play it, but that's just me. Moving on! When I can open up the article, because it's on IGN, and they always load up their videos, so it takes my laptop slow to open up, so I'm just gonna sing right now. And Gary's looking at me like I'm crazy.
I was just gonna say, I actually hate those articles. Actually, I hate IGN for that reason, because when I'm at work and I want to open up like an article, they immediately start playing videos and interviews and shit that I don't feel like seeing. So the hell with you, IGN.
IGN just took me to shirtpunch.com, whatever the fuck that is.
Shirt Punch?
Shirt Punch. Shirt Punch. I shouldn't have plugged it because it was stupid. It just randomly took me there. Moving on, State of Decay 2 will have 3 maps, each the size of the first game. Hope Corrigan over at IGN writes, Undead Labs has revealed that the survival horror sequel State of Decay 2 will launch with 3 maps, each around the same size as the map from the original game. In a blog post, community director Sonia Weathers explained that each map will feature different landmarks, layouts, and environments. These will play into varying stages and mission types that complement the area. Quote, it really feels It really feels like you're moving from one small town to another and creates a tremendous sense of immersion. And perhaps counterintuitively, it makes the world feel even bigger. You know how on one map, the longer you play, the more you start to feel deja vu with every mission? That's less of an issue with the separate maps, end quote. This news plays into our interview with Undead Labs CEO Jeff Strain, where he stated that, quote, for now suffice it to say that the playable area is subsequently larger than State of Decay, end quote, when asked about the scope of the sequel. Reason behind this design is to promote the feeling of moving between small towns and increasing the sense of immersion. They also hope to limit repetition with this model and to make the potential for expansion an easier endeavor. State of Decay 2 is yet to receive a firm release date, but is slated to release on Xbox One and Windows 10 as an Xbox Play Anywhere title at some point in 2017. I'm really excited. I really enjoyed State of Decay, the original one. I do understand the repetition that happened with the game, but I liked kind of the I mean, it was a zombie game released at a time where zombie games were a plethora, and no one was really tired of it yet, so I'm kind of interested to see how it works out here. However, sorry, my monitor said it was going to power off, so I had to click to make sure it didn't. Sorry if you heard that noise. But so State of Decay 2, or State of Decay, I like the fact that the world was actually pretty large. I do like the fact that you built up your own camp or people that you recruited by saving them in the world. You can send them off to get supplies, and sometimes they could actually die. And when these characters died in the game, they were just dead. So you start off with I think his name was Marcus or something. And you kind of think he's the actual main character, but he's not really. You could send him out, and he could actually die, or you can play as him, and you could die, and you just have to move on to the next character and try to build up the settlement and keep them alive to complete the game. I can't quite remember if there was a complete story, but I did like the fact that it was kind of intense with the combat itself. If you got kind of close to a bunch of zombies, you were basically screwed. So you kind of have to pick your poison and make sure to sneak around, and when you're scavenging, make sure not to make too much noise. So State of Decay 2, if they institute these 3 maps moving from place to place, I do think it'll add some type of immersion. It'll make things feel more different, so it's not the same map over and over, and you're driving in the same types of areas. Maybe they'll add, they're saying, more landmarks, things that you can relate to in the world of wherever you are in the world. So I'm excited to see how they play on, or how the sequel plays. But Gary, I know you're excited about this final piece of news. This is exciting stuff.
Yeah, it depends on what you mean by exciting, but yeah.
Moving the best. We had it at the top, but we decided to save the best for last. Over the Guardian, Jasper Jackson asks a question. Could the Call of Duty franchise be the next Marvel? It has been years since video games surpassed blockbuster movies as the biggest releases in media, but that's never stopped game makers wanting to get a slice of the action on the big screen. Now Call of Duty's makers Activision Blizzard are planning on an assault to rival Disney's Marvel Universe. It plans to use the multi-layered, interconnected approach that has made Marvel superheroes a dominant force in cinema to turn the first-person shooter into an all-conquering film franchise of its own. 2 people are tasked with pulling that off: Stacey Shearer and Nick Van Dyke, the co-presidents of Activision Blizzard Studios, an in-house production division that hopes to succeed where almost everyone else has failed by turning games into commercially and critically successful film and TV. According to the pair, work on Call of Duty films has already generated multiple scripts and involving extensive research with military experts and retired soldiers. They are mapping out a Call of Duty universe which will draw on the feel of the different incarnations of the game rather than transposing existing plots. The first installment could end within a couple years after starting shooting as early as 2018, and if all goes to plan, there will be more to follow. Quote, "We have plotted out many years Cher tells The Guardian, continuing, quote, "We put together this group of writers to talk about where we are going. There'll be a film that feels more like Black Ops, the story behind the story. The Modern Warfare series looks at what it's like to fight a war with the eyes of the world on you. And then maybe something that is more of a hybrid, where you're looking at private covert ops operations while a public operation is going on." Van Dyke also adds, quote, "It's going to have the same sort of adrenaline, high energy aesthetic as the game, but it's not a literal adaptation. It's much more broad and inclusive, global in scope. ... A big tentpole Marvel-esque movie," end quote. Cher's involvement brings artistic credibility to Activision plans. Her credits as a producer include work on Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, Django Unchained, and The Hateful Eight, as well as other critically acclaimed series such as Gattaca and Garden State. However, it's her co-president, Van Dyke, who represented the clearest indicator of the company's grand ambitions. As a senior executive at Disney, he played a key role in acquiring and developing the Marvel and Star Wars brands, both of which are thriving critically and commercially by carefully planning how they branch out from core stories into side plots and characters. With Call of Duty, he says the aim is to emulate the way Marvel has created, quote, "these individual universes that interconnect and a timeline that makes sense with consistent themes and Easter eggs," end quote. The pair are also looking at a TV series focused on historical conflicts such as World War II and Vietnam, which is how the Call of Duty franchise started. Again, mirroring Marvel's 4 series on Netflix: Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. Of course, Activision has a lot of other games that seem ripe for film, and one of the most promising is Overwatch, a hugely popular multi-platform title which has arguably created a Marvel for the modern age with a pantheon of distinctive characters which tech drives, and I think they go more into Overwatch and more into it. Gary, I just wanted to, you can read the article later if you're interested to find out more. They go into, I think, what happened with Warcraft and how they didn't actually own it and they gave it to a third party and things like that. So, Gary, my question is, how do you feel about a Call of Duty franchise? Marvel, you think interconnected world? Do you think it's going to be take over Marvel?
No, and reason being, I'm no genius here, but I just don't know how this is going to work, because for anyone that's played Call of Duty, it's not like they've ever made or created any real like interesting characters. I mean, like, you have your favorite characters in the game, Price, for example, but like there wasn't any like real like deep characters that you cared about.
Yeah.
There wasn't like unbelievable stories. Call of Duty 4 was a good story. Everyone liked that story, but it wasn't like
the reason I feel like people like those stories is that they're actually playing through it. They're actually doing these high adrenaline quote things.
Yeah, and that's the thing. See, if they aren't going to do like a literal adaptation of the game, then what is it then? Is it just something like that has the name Call of Duty thrown on it? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I was reading this article, and it just felt like they wanted a reason, I guess, to create a, I don't know if they were thinking like creating a new genre, not genre, but like a war, I guess, interconnected world, like in Vietnam and World War II and the modern era, and just like, because Call of Duty is pretty large with a large swath of people, and just put the stamp Call of Duty on it.
But at the same time, it's like, what is it going to be about? Because I mean, the reason why Call of Duty was successful is because it is a video game, and you can play through the story, and that's I've said this before, and
also multiplayer. That's the reason it's
well,
not the story.
And that's another thing. It's like, are you going to have like 13-year-olds in this game screaming, "I fucked your mom"? Is that going to happen? I mean, no. Like, that's the thing. It's like, but that's the thing. I don't understand what value these movies are going to bring.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if they threw that in there?
I think it'd be hilarious.
Just randomly.
I think it would be the most successful movie of 2018 or 19.
No, you know what the real Call of Duty experience is we have to watch this movie, and we have to put headphones on, and we have to try to listen to the story that's going on while 13-year-olds are yelling and cursing at us and telling them to go fuck our mothers. And
on top of that, you have like the 30-year-old guy with the kid screaming in the background. He's not paying attention. Yeah, so that's what you're trying to listen to the movie.
Or the guy trying to be like a fucking like trying to be cool, saying, "Oh, my girlfriend's distracting me."
Yeah,
that fucking stupid shit. I was like, I don't care if I lost. I have a girlfriend. F you. I'm like, sure you do, buddy.
And then you have the MLG Pro guy. Guys, what are you doing? You have to flank right now. Yeah.
Go to Station B.
Yeah.
And then
I just don't know.
And then if there's a girl player, then fucking everybody just like listening and trying to harass her. Basically, it seems like because it's like a crazy idea that a girl is playing a video game.
It's actually really embarrassing when that happens.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that meme. I just want you to see the meme. I think I saw on Reddit. It was saying like when a girl on like Battlefield or something asked for like a heal or something, and just a fucking swarm or like just a swarm of other characters come and just drop heal. It's like insane. It's like it's kind of true.
It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. But
oh man.
Yeah, I don't know this Call of Duty thing. I really don't see how it's going to work. Personally, I'm not trying to be a downer for anybody that loves Call of Duty and think this will work. Go ahead and prove me wrong. Tweet me at RealScavenger18. But yeah, I don't see how it's going to work. It's a game it's never really created that much in the way of in story or characters. And on top of that, a lot of the game's appeal was multiplayer, and that's not something that you're really going to portray, obviously, on the big screen. So, is it just going to be another war movie? Like, is that how it's going to be?
And I don't know how an interconnected war movie would handle with like the audience, because I feel like war movies are supposed to be like drama packed and like you're supposed to feel and like very emotional and a lot of adrenaline, and I don't know if that really in an interconnected world in that sense I don't think makes sense really, because the reason Star Wars and Marvel works is because you actually have like it's like a lightheartedness. They're like joking, and they like you can point out things where in like a war setting, I feel like you're not going to be trying to pay attention to what's going on in the around it, and you're just be focusing on what's happening and the craziness that's supposed to be happening.
And on top of that, too, it's like does the part of the like with Call of Duty, like you have people obviously like gamers will know what Call of Duty is, but how do you introduce that Call of Duty like whatever that is, onto the big screen and get it to appeal to a lot of people? I don't know. Because if it's just a war movie, that's only going to appeal to certain people, mostly guys, might I say. So how are you going to make that appeal to a wide audience? I just don't see how that's going to happen.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Good question.
Call of Duty's just they're shooting themselves in the foot further.
In our idea of having people sit down with headphones with little kids yelling at them really is not the best to draw people in.
No, it's actually a way to encourage suicide, apparently.
So, so Universal do not hire us as, creative directors on movies. And, that has been it for all the video game news going out this week. Gary, do you have anything to say before I wrap it up?
Well, maybe. I mean, honestly, only thing I really have to say is, once again, I'm actually going to make a post on this on the Two Jersey Kids account later on. I just wanted to say again, thanks for listening, but also, if you have any topics, okay, I've mentioned this before, I'm going to say it again. If you have any,
we got a few topics submitted by another fan of ours. Found us today, and she enjoyed us. So she submitted a few topics that got my brain thinking, and we'll be doing something in the future.
Exactly. And if you want to
tease,
if you want to be involved in the Two Jersey Kids podcast and experience, might I add, you can also submit a topic.
It is a fucking experience.
Yeah. You can either tweet us or actually direct message us on Twitter and tell us what your topic is, obviously video game related, and we'd like to get it on the show. We'll give you a shout out on the actual podcast episode and also on Twitter itself. So, you'll get something out of it as well. So, feel free to send us the topics. We need them.
Slide into our DMs. Get all slippery up in there. We accept it, and we love it when people talk to us. It makes our day. Yeah, that has been Two Jersey Kids. Please go follow us on Twitter at Two Jersey Kids. And if you've made it this far and you are using, I don't know what else you'd be using, but you're using a podcast service on your phone, please, if that podcast service has a rating system, please rate us. It would help. And if you really want to help us and you have an Apple device, please go find us on the podcast app that they use and rate us, because that puts us in a higher standing. And, me and Gary are shooting to the top. That's what we're doing. We're taking everybody down along the way. We're burning them all to the ground.
World domination.
We're going to be the best video game podcast out there. And the only way it happens is if you go rate us and you support us, because we're here to support each other, honestly. And we love all you out there who do support us and continue to support us. You know who you are. We love you all. And keep playing those games, guys, until next Tuesday. Have a good one. Gary, say bye.
Peace.
Bye.